Is stretched on another record day of COVID cases in New South Wales. The Moderna vaccine approved for children aged 12 and over. And a golden goodbye to the Paralympics for Dylan Alcott. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Mariam Saab. New South Wales has reached another unwanted COVID milestone. More than 1,000 people are now being treated for COVID-19 in the state's hospitals. Around 170 of those are in intensive care. 62 need ventilation. 4 more people have died. And the number of new cases has passed 1,500, yet another record. With the government predicting the peak will arrive soon, attention is now turning to how the health system will cope.
There's barely a hospital in the state that hasn't been touched by COVID. Today, the number of patients being cared for in those facilities passed 1,000.
At the moment, there's about 11,000 people are being managed with COVID across our entire state, and about 10,000 of those are actually being managed in their own home.
Questions have been raised about whether the government is masking the true number of people who are sick enough to require hospitalisation.
Is the government trying to minimise some of those hospitalisation figures by discounting those people receiving hospital-grade care at home?
Look, these are clinical decisions. It's managed by the clinicians. The government certainly doesn't have an input to determining who is in hospital and who isn't.
New South Wales Health says there are no patients on oxygen at home, and anyone who needs it is transferred to hospital. The outbreak continues to spread in regional areas. In the state's far west, there are 9 more cases, all in Wilcannia, which now has almost 100 infections. In the Western Local Health District, there are 38 cases. And there's new cases in the Illawarra, Hunter New England and Central Coast Health Districts.
As the state braces for the worst, the government's ramped up its focus on mental health. Lifeline is receiving about 1,000 calls a day. That's almost 30% more than before the pandemic. But they say there hasn't been a rise in suicides.
Just get out and go for a walk. Walk around the block twice, go down to the park and come back. Just get some sun on your face, some wind on your face, maybe even some rain on your face, but please get out.
No longer limited to only an hour of exercise a day, residents in the hotspots are taking note of that advice.
There are people who are vulnerable, who have lost their jobs and everything. Some of them are single parents like me. It's very, very tough.
We are able to get some good air and sunlight.
A small mercy as we prepare for even tougher days ahead. Kathleen Calderwood, ABC News, Sydney.
Victorians have been told that the current COVID outbreak could end up on the same trajectory as Sydney's in a week, but not if people stay the course and do the right things. Almost 60% of those eligible in the state have had their first dose of a vaccine, while the state recorded 190 new cases on Saturday.
There's still no timetable for a return to classrooms in Victoria, but this school's getting ready anyway.
We've requested that all staff are vaccinated and we're really open to having a conversation with anyone who might have a point of difficulty or concern with that.
Xavier College wants all teachers to have a first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine by October.
To date, it's been really, really positive, so I haven't yet had a conversation adversely.
It comes as cases skyrocket in the education sector, with 313 cases recorded over the past month. Another 142 were linked to childcare. Of today's 190 cases, most infections are in Melbourne's northern and western suburbs.
The trend over 7-day periods has been incrementally increasing. I expect that to happen until we can get much higher vaccination coverage.
To that end, a temple in Mill Park became a vaccine hub to support the Hindu community.
I urge everyone to get vaccinated, and that way we can stop these lockdowns, longer lockdowns, and we can get our freedom back.
A cluster at a Box Hill construction site has grown overnight from 20 to 58 cases.
Construction sites are not immune to transmission, and wherever people come together in relatively large numbers, the potential for accelerated transmission is there.
Authorities say they don't regret not closing construction sites. But for many businesses that have had to close their doors, more help is on the way from the state and federal governments.
So $2.34 billion of support to get us through the next 4 weeks, and obviously if it needs to be extended beyond that, we will have more to announce later in the month.
Health authorities remain concerned that people are still not getting tested early enough.
Testing doesn't make you positive. Getting infected is what makes you positive.
With only 4 cases recorded in Shepparton today, the focus is now on Melbourne. Regional Victoria remains on track to see some restrictions lifted as early as this coming week. Eden Hennanen, ABC News, Melbourne.
The Moderna vaccine has been approved for use in Australian teenagers. It's the second vaccine given the green light for that particular age group. Professor John Skerritt from the Therapeutic Goods Department says the decision follows the lead of other countries and was made based on the best advice available.
The approval was based on evidence of strong ability for these vaccines to raise just as good, if not a little bit stronger, immunological response against COVID in this age group as it does in young adults and older groups. When you look at the overall benefits versus the risks, the benefits significantly exceed. So it's yet another step in Australia's campaign to vaccinate the nation.
The ACT has recorded 32 new locally acquired COVID infections, with only 8 cases in isolation for the entirety of their infectious period. 24 of the cases are linked to current exposure sites or known close contacts. Across the territory, 10 people are hospitalised, with 2 people in intensive care.
The number of people infectious in the community is obviously very concerning. Our contact tracers are now going to have a very busy weekend. So the ACT government is currently working on our plan to accelerate vaccinations in our mass clinics with these additional doses from the UK. They don't all arrive in one batch, they're going to be coming week by week, but this will be a welcome boost to our capacity to vaccinate more people more quickly.
Queensland health authorities are frantically testing 1,000 families linked to a COVID-positive child at Logan. Now, they're all in home quarantine, and their results will determine if the state goes into lockdown again.
This Logan Childcare Centre, nearby Windaroo State School and the Beenleigh Marketplace are hotspots that could trigger a lockdown.
It depends. If we find cases who went to the Beenleigh Marketplace and have then since then been out infectious in the community in an uncontrolled situation, then that would lead me to think that we need to consider a lockdown.
100 families from the Boulevard Early Learning Centre and 960 from the local school are in home quarantine after a 4-year-old girl tested positive. She's the daughter of a woman who works with the truck driver.
The next 24 to 48 hours is critical here.
Of greatest concern is the Beenleigh nail salon the truck driver visited on Monday.
Sadly, what we have seen is that people were not checking in.
Authorities want anyone who has been to the shopping centre this week to come forward and get tested.
And could everyone make sure they're wearing masks? This is a really high-risk period for us.
Logan Aged Care Homes and Hospital are also now closed to visitors as a precaution. After reacting to community backlash and allowing stranded Memphis Francis to fly home from New South Wales and reunite with his mum, the government's now saying no child should be locked out.
Can I say any children who are separated from their parents will be allowed to come back to Queensland?
So Jamie Ivan's asking why her 15-year-old daughter is still stranded in Bendigo after a custody visit.
I miss you.
I miss you too.
I haven't seen her since the 13th of July. We are getting nowhere. So for her to sit there and say that they would never abandon a child interstate was a very big slap in the face. And it's disgusting for the Queenslanders that are stuck.
More than 700 hotel rooms are being freed up to allow people to get home as the pause on interstate migration is lifted.
We require people to fly in for good reason. We cannot have people driving through hotspots.
While that gives little hope for those stuck at the border, life is relatively normal for Queenslanders, with the possibility of a lockdown still looming. Lexi Hamilton-Smith, ABC News.
To Tokyo, and Australia has had a golden run on the penultimate day of the Paralympics. Wheelchair tennis legend Dylan Alcott pushed himself right to the limit, claiming gold in an emotional end to his Paralympic career. And to top off the day's success, four-time Paralympian Ellie Cole has been named as Australia's flag bearer for Sunday night's closing ceremony. Here's Daniela and Tilly.
There were tears of joy for Dylan Alcott. The 30-year-old had already taken home the Australian, French and Wimbledon titles. He needed to defend his Paralympic gold medal in the quad singles to continue his dream of a golden slam. After channeling his inner Leighton Hewitt, Alcott moved a step closer. He'll need to win the US Open next week to seal the historic slam. But perhaps winning isn't everything, as Alcott confirmed his fourth Paralympics would be his last. A fitting farewell for another four-time Paralympian, with swimmer Ellie Cole announced as Australia's flag bearer for the closing ceremony. A day after defending his Rio gold medal, Curtis McGrath began his quest for another in the new VL3 VAR 200 metres canoe event. After a slow start, the former soldier made his move. He powered away in the final 100 to claim a third career Paralympic gold. James Turner entered the final of the T36 100 metres qualifying fastest and with the world record. But the Australian was thrown off after the runner next to him looked to have moved early. He fought back to claim silver, but his bid for double gold was shattered. Daniela Intilli, ABC News.
Naomi Osaka says that she's not sure when she'll play tennis again after an emotional upset loss in the third round of the US Open. Osaka was serving for the match when she started a series of uncharacteristic outbursts. She eventually lost to 18-year-old Canadian Leylah Fernandez and says she needs time away from the sport.
I think I'm going to take a break from playing for a while.
Meanwhile, men's third seed Stefanos Tsitsipas also lost to an 18-year-old, going down in 5 sets to Carlos Alcaraz. Turning to the weather around the capital cities for Sunday, Brisbane a late shower or two, Sydney rain easing, Canberra can expect a few showers, Melbourne showers easing, Hobart a shower or two, Adelaide will be partly cloudy, Perth will be sunny and Darwin can expect a shower or two with a top of 34 there. And that's the latest from ABC News. Remember, you can keep up to date at news.abc.net.au and on ABC iView. I'm Mariam Saab. Thank you for your company.
The following program contains adult themes.